3, 2, 1. The Pixii is like a camera version of your fantasy French girlfriend. Stubborn, infuriating, headstrong, frustrating, but you just can't keep your hands off her. I guess I'd better not say that. The Pixii is a digital camera that makes 26 megapixel images on a 25 by 17 millimeter sensor, the same sensor size used in the Epson RD1 and the Fujifilm X Pro cameras. It has an optical viewfinder for composing your picture and an optical rangefinder for focusing the lens. It takes interchangeable lenses that use the M-type lens mount, which is supported by several manufacturers including Leica, Cosina, Voigtlander, and 7 Artisans. It's made in France and starts at about $3,000 US. As you can see, the Pixii makes almost no concessions to traditional classic camera design. The body is a two-piece shell of formed aluminum, and the back has a non-slip black textured area that gives a secure grip. I never felt any danger that the camera was going to slip out of my hand. All the Pixii's functions are covered by only a few controls. On the top there's a shutter speed selector wheel and the flat, flush-mounted shutter release button. On the back there's a button to actuate the menus and a vertical scroll wheel for making menu selections. There's also a covered USB-C port, which is how you charge the camera battery and also how you remove pictures from it, since there's no removable memory card. For some reason, the Pixii seems to be one of the most intensely hated cameras on the planet. In all honesty, I think some guys hate the Pixii just because it's made in France and it's called the Pixii. Be honest, guys, you'd probably love it if it were made in Germany and were called the Luger or the Stuka or the Panzerfaust. Am I right? I probably shouldn't say that either. You can make all your control settings on the Pixii using this top display. It's a white organic light emitting diode, or OLED, and while it's small, it's easy to read because the dots are very, very sharp. It's an off-the-shelf piece, but it's even chic looking because Pixii has gone to the trouble of designing a custom font for it. Now let's walk through some of these menus to the accompaniment of soothing French music. And there's lots more. Fortunately, if you get really tired of the menu system, you can also make all the same settings using the Pixii app for your iOS or Android phone. Let's take a closer look at that app. In addition to the tab where you make camera settings that we just looked at, there's another one where you can set up the application itself. And of course the most interesting tab is the Photos tab, because that's where you can see the pictures you've taken. Remember, the Pixii doesn't have an LCD, so the only way you can check a photo after you've made it is to use the app. When you first take a photo, the camera sends a low-resolution preview to the app by Bluetooth, which takes only a few seconds. If you want a closer look, tap the circling arrows button. That will use Wi-Fi to download a higher resolution HD preview. Once you got the HD preview, you can do quite a bit with it, including scrolling in to check details or posting it directly to Instagram. But things get really interesting if you click the Load DNG button. The DNG is a big file, so it'll take about 45 seconds to download, but once you've got it, you can do pretty sophisticated editing in a RAW-capable app such as Snapseed. This strikes me as a lot of editing power for a small, simple walking around camera and a workflow that you can basically carry on your phone. Now, I didn't have as much time as I would have liked to organize shoots with the Pixii, so to get started sizing up the images, I did a straightforward comparison with another 26 megapixel camera. The Fujifilm X-T4 produces about the kind of image you'd expect from a modern camera. It's bright, it's sharp, it's colorful, there's nothing wrong with it. The Pixii image isn't that much different, although there is different emphasis on some of the colors and tones. If you don't like the Pixii's default look, it does come with 7 different profiles, which you can use to select more of the type of look that you'd like, even though there isn't a lot of drastic difference among them. I suspect the Pixii will appeal the most to the type of person who just enjoys casually walking around taking pictures, so that's what I did at the art center where I work. I was really pleased with the way these images look. They have a nice open tonality that responds well to editing, although I did learn you have to watch out for overexposure because the highlights will blow out fairly quickly if you go too far. I feel the Pixii will handle this kind of shooting really well. The tonality is realistic, it handles subtle colors pleasantly, it also handles vivid colors well without oversaturating them. It doesn't get blown out by bright sunlight, and yet at the same time it still does a good job of handling scenes with delicate differentiations of color. I also had the chance to take the Pixii to a ballet rehearsal to see how it did at higher ISOs. Nowadays everybody's camera does a good job at ISO 1200 or 2500, although I feel the Pixii did as well as any. But take a look at this backstage portrait. I happen to love this kind of picture, and I was really pleased with how well the Pixii handled this one. In terms of noise, smoothness, and tonality, I like it better than the comparison picture I shot with the Fuji X-T4. But the Pixii has very significant problems that I suspect will be deal breakers for a lot of people. For one thing, it doesn't keep up with fast action. You can get off a few shots in quick succession, but after that it starts to bog down. I made up this simple test method to show how that affects you. As you look, you can see the second hand keeping up for the first 6 pictures, but after that you see bigger and bigger gaps as the camera struggles to process the files. The result is I only got 11 pictures in 1 minute. The GPR format, which is compressed DNG, is even worse. I only got 4 pictures. JPEG is a little faster, but still you can only get off 1 picture per second for about the first 7 seconds. After that you start to see bigger and bigger gaps. The result is that you only get 12 pictures in 60 seconds. If you're trying to keep up with your active kid or your crazy cat, you're going to get really frustrated watching the busy indicator. Short battery life is another frustration. I couldn't come up with a scientific way to measure this, so I just looked at the EXIF data from the longest session I was able to shoot. By the time I ran out of battery, I'd run 51 minutes and I'd only shot 114 pictures. That's not very good. This next one's going to hit hard for people who have big collections of M-mount lenses. Most M-mount cameras have a nice big button that you press to release the lens. The Pixii uses a smaller, flatter lens release catch. It's no problem with small lenses, but for big ones, your fingers may not fit. By using this light panel, I'm going to show another problem with M-mount lens compatibility. With the light behind the optics, it's easy to see the location of the main viewfinder window and the smaller rangefinder window. This is the window that creates the moving image you use to focus, so it's very important you see through it, and with a small lens like this one, that's no problem. But if you mount a lens that has a larger diameter, it can block part of the rangefinder window, making it more difficult to focus because you can't see the full rangefinder image. There are some lenses that are so large they block the entire rangefinder window. So even if those lenses would physically fit on the Pixii, you wouldn't be able to focus them using the rangefinder because the entire image would be blocked off. So, should you buy a Pixii or not? I honestly don't know. Buying a rather expensive new camera from a small company with no concessions to tradition is a lot like adopting a special needs pet. It's an emotionally appealing idea, but are you really ready to take on that kind of commitment? Yes, the camera is great looking. It's very pleasant to handle. I like the concept. I feel the company deserves support, and the pictures are really, really good. On the other hand, you can't take a lot of shots in quick succession. Battery life is terrible. You can't use flash. Not all your M-mount lenses are going to fit. I haven't even talked about the viewfinder, which will be problems for some people, and I have no idea how you get it fixed if it conked out on you. It's a lot to ponder, and you don't get a lot of time to ponder it because Pixii's return policy is pretty rigorous. Once your camera is in your hands, which they can track because they're the shipper, you have 15 days to decide whether to keep it or send it back. As of right now, I've got 2 days left on my countdown clock, and I honestly haven't decided whether I should keep the Pixii or say au revoir, chérie. What would you do?